This is a non-sponsored review of Once Human. I feel like every time I've seen a video about Once Human, there's always some sort of description where it says, yeah, this is sponsored by the game that people are reviewing or playing. And if you're playing the game and you're getting sponsored by it, it's no big deal. But if someone is reviewing the game, I think that turns for the worse, because if you're getting sponsored by the game and then you're trying to give a critical review about it, it feels as though that you're kind of limited on what you can say fully about the game and being sponsored by it, because guess what? When you're sponsored by a game, you're getting money purposely to say a specific criteria of what the developers want you to say. And so today I'm here to review Once Human that is not sponsored. And stick around so you can see what price I would actually pay for this game. Now, for those who don't know, Once Human is essentially a open world survival craft game that focuses heavily on the MMO aspect of dungeons, bosses, fights around certain areas of the open world, crafting, building, and a bunch of other stuff that honestly is pretty cool for a game like this that is free to play. And the first thing I want to talk about is the gameplay. The gameplay is pretty straightforward in a sense of just how basic the game is, which is something of a downside because I thought an MMO would have a little more oomph to it, but I feel as though that a lot of the oomph is within the armor, weapons, crafting, and stuff like that, which is understandable. It is an open world survival game. But the gameplay is pretty boring in a sense. Now, as I jump in for the first time, I was actually pretty ecstatic that the introduction was pretty satisfying, very simple, straightforward, and very understanding of what my character needs to do. He wants to go back into his real world without being trapped into this other dimension, which is simple but effective. My character looked so fucking dead. Oh my god. And their mouths aren't even moving.
I believe Manibus created a rift in space-time and pulled you in.
Why is this making me laugh? Why is my character looking so fucking dead inside, dude? I jump on in, have a good time, but there's a lot of overwhelming tasks and things at hand in the tutorial level because there's a lot of things that I have to process in my head. And if you're an MMO junkie, this game would probably be simpler in comparison to the other games that you've played, but I feel like as a new player, it's just really hard for me to cooperate with the tutorial because the tutorial gives you the basics, and then when you get into the main game, then the tutorial really starts by adding more shit on top of the stuff that you're learning. So honestly, it's like, why not just have everything within the tutorial and go step by step slowly on how things work, right? A great example is I didn't know where to find iron at because I wanted to get iron so I can get the quest done pretty quickly, but I didn't realize you had to continue on with the main storyline, which wasn't really shown easily. And besides that, I didn't know where to start because on the top left, there was different tasks to do, but they were all different tasks that weren't part of the main story. So it's like, where do I go from here? And then over time, as I kind of like delve deep into the game, I understood where I needed to go. I understood what the markers meant. I understood all the boss fights, all the different deviants you can fight, and all the different areas to go to. I understood it pretty quickly. I'm a fast learner. But I think for me, the introduction of the game is pretty rough to get into, especially if you are new to MMOs and you enjoy playing, first person or third person shooters. This kind of game is not really easy, but it's not really hard. It's just kind of, hey, there's a nice little bump in the learning curve you have to get over before you start getting into the good shit. If I could compare this game to like another MMO, I would say The Division is a great example. I think The Division was pretty straightforward, but it did have like little minute details for like stats and stuff that you could get into later. But I think their introduction and straightforwardness is what Once Human needs for a lot of new players to jump on in, especially with them now bringing in console players on August 25th. So I'm kind of like interested in how that's going to go. I've never really heard of this game until as recently because a lot of the times whenever I seen like advertisements for the game, I would just skip by it because I'm not going to listen to an ad in my videos. Like, let's just be real. We skip over the ads that are embedded within the video, right? I can't be the only one. If you decide to go and do the main storyline, I think as you continue on with the main storyline, you start getting an understanding of where you need to go, what to do, etc, etc. But it's not shown easily in your journal entry or like where you need to go for the main quest line, and I didn't really like that. I think they really need to redesign also the UI system. Holy shit. It is so overwhelming with all the stuff that's in my face. Like, there's a lot of hotbar like buttons, and for MMO people, it's really probably normal. But for me, like, holy shit. Can I just simplify it? Can we just simplify all of this, please? There has to be another way to do this, right? I think that would be better overall for the game. I do feel like a lot of the times I've kind of had to learn from like trial and error, understanding where I needed to go. But if you decide to go and do the main storyline, I think as you continue on with the main storyline, you start getting an understanding of where you need to go, what to do, etc, etc. Oh. Yeah, that's an AK floating. Okay. But I think that's really something minute. Now, if there's something else to talk about for gameplay, the big feature in this game is deviants, and deviants are basically your little pals. It's kind of like Palworld in a sense, where you can have different pets that do different abilities that you can use with your weapons, with your character, or whatever else, and allows you to do a lot of damage depending on what type of deviant you have. Or you can have deviants that are stuck at your home that you built up from the ground up, mining resources, watering plants, or whatever else. So honestly, it's not really that unique. It's just basic. I mean, I've seen this already before in Palworld, and whenever I played Once Human, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so it's just Palworld, but very horrific. That's basically what it is, with a hint of more survival crafting abilities. And to be honest with you, I don't think that's a bad thing, because the game does have something unique in and of itself, and that's the MMO aspect. But I would say that this game feels also really janky, and to talk about that, we should talk about the gunplay. I think the gunplay is really not half bad at all. I feel like a lot of the times whenever I use different weapons, it all felt the same to shoot. Like even the nail gun, the crossbows, and whatever else, like they kind of meshed together with other guns out there. Now, it's not to say it's a bad thing that these weapons feel generic. It's really not a bad thing at all. It's just when you go into a game like this where it's a focus on survival crafting, it's understandable that you're not going to get like the best weapons or the best gear in the world to mess around with when you first jump in. And besides that, depending on the server you're on, there's like monthly wipes that reset your character stats, levels, and whatever else before you jump on in again, which makes sense. So it's like I haven't really fully played around with everything in terms of weapons, attachments, bonuses, and whatever other stats there are, but I can say that the weapons just feel very generic to shoot. And especially with them officially adding a first-person mode for the first time, I think in this latest big update, it's kind of interesting that when you go and aim down the sights, it actually feels pretty smooth, but it doesn't feel as polished. And I think that's just because a lot of third-person shooter games, say for example Gears of War, always have kind of a weird mechanic in the way they aim down the sights. Let's say for example for your sniper rifle, it doesn't feel as smooth or clear cut as if you were to just go into third person and shoot. And maybe that's just because our brains are comprehending that it's a third person game, and then when you switch over the first person, it kind of feels awkward to switch between the two. But to be honest with you, it still works. It's just not as polished as I thought it could be. I haven't really tested out all the weapons, but I feel like every time I've used a deviant that allowed me to have infinite ammo, I would just pull out my shotgun, press E, and just let it fucking rip. And it did a lot of damage to a lot of the enemy types that were around me, but I just felt like it wasn't as interesting, I guess. So the gunplay is all right, you know? So there's that. And building. Actually, I'm really surprised about the building in this game. It feels very snappy and good to build stuff, and it doesn't really take that much resources. In comparison to other survival games, which it takes a shit ton of resources just to build a home, I feel as though that this kind of building system should be implemented in a lot of different games out there because it's actually really good. So in general, the gameplay is very basic. I would say that the only thing that's very unique about it, again, is the deviants that you can have as pets, so you can fight the monsters that you're trying to fight and the different things that you can loot up and try to upgrade over time. It's not really a bad thing at all. But if there's something to take away from this that is bad, I would say that this game has a grind set to it. So it's definitely for those who have a lot of time on their hands or they're trying to bypass the time. This game definitely has that MMO charm of building your character up to be overpowered as shit. Very similar to Warframe in a sense. So if you enjoy games that take a long time to progress in, I would definitely suggest Once Human, because it's going to take a long time for you to upgrade your character to max level. And not to mention that with each scenario, you will have to make your character again and start from the ground up for each one. So you always have a fresh take on the scenarios that you get into, and you can feel as though that you're always starting off a new game. It's like having mini games within the game in a sense, different stories within each scenario. And then some scenarios are just PvP and very similar to how Rust plays, including Raid Zone, which you can play on PC and mobile. My issue is that with having multiple characters like that, it feels as though that if I choose one scenario, I feel as though that all the progress I've made is kind of lost when I decide to go to switch to a different scenario and I have to start from the ground up again. And I personally don't like that, because I don't like having invested a lot of time into one character just to be told, hey, if you want to try the other game modes, you're gonna have to reset and start all over again. That's really annoying to me. And I don't think it's a bad thing per se if those who enjoy MMO games, like obviously it's a great way for people to jump on in, do a different meta build, do different builds in general, and be able to do different characters and stylize them differently however you see fit, jump on in and have a good time. It's not really that big of a deal if you're an MMO person, but as someone who's not, I just find it to be really annoying. Now, if we're talking about gameplay, we need to talk about the bosses and the dungeons that you can go into.
Truly a great one.
Uh-oh. That's really fucked up. Okay. Very Dark Souls reminiscent. The bosses are boring as fuck. Maybe it's because I was playing on Novice and I really wasn't getting hit all too much, or maybe I'm just a god gamer. But to be honest with you, every time I fought a boss, they just felt very static and boring in a sense to fight, and you don't really want that in an MMO, especially for a game that needs to have a lot of content to it. It's one of those games where every time you go and fight a boss, you're expecting a different way to fight them or different outcomes of like how to fight them. But every time you do in this game, it feels all the same. They're all bullet sponges is what I'm trying to say. The only one that I would say that's unique or different are like some enemy types that have different weak spots you need to shoot at in order to do more damage, which is a cool concept, but honestly, it's been done before, and every time they keep adding that in there, it does add some dynamic fights, but it's not really as unique. What I'm trying to say, it's Temu Dark Souls with the bosses. They're really not that unique. They're stylized and cool looking, don't get me wrong. They're really badass to look at, but every time I go and try and fight these guys, they feel the exact same. Some of them are different where, you know, they'll hide away, be invulnerable, but they attack you from a distance, etc, etc. And to be honest with you, maybe it's just because I haven't tried the other scenarios fully yet, but as a new player joining in a novice, it didn't really catch me. It didn't really hook me to continue on playing. And the other thing too is that with the bosses, as I go and watch other videos that are made by other people, the bosses look cool to fight, but they're not really that fun to fight. There's a difference. All right, now aside from the gameplay, let's talk about the graphics. The graphics, wonderful. Wonderful. I don't really have a say that's negative about it, other than maybe there's been moments where it kind of gets repetitive to see the same enemy type over and over again. But when you go and fight the zombies, they all have different outfits. When you fight some other deviants, they're very unique and different looking every single time. There's even mimics in the game where you try to open up a chest and it'll bite you, do some damage, and then you have to kill it to get the actual loot. Really cool in concept. And the one thing that really caught me out of the blue was the bus. I thought they were really cool concepts. That's basically My Neighbor Totoro, but with human arms and legs. It's just cool. Like, how else can I express other than it's cool? That is the graphics, right? I think they did a really good job. I think there are some performance issues when you start getting into the higher end with certain types of computers. So if you have like an older gen computer, you're probably going to be looking at the graphics a little differently from everyone else, but I wouldn't say it's really that different. All right, let's talk about story. Wait, why did I need that cutscene? Why the fuck did I need that? Okay, I guess. Once I was human. Ah, he said it. It said it. Ah.
As for you, you seek keys with which to unlock the Dark Tower, don't you? But I'd be wary of what else you might open up.
Do you always speak in riddles like this?
That wasn't even riddles. That wasn't even fucking riddles. That was just him just saying it straight up. What the fuck is this dialogue?
Willing deviants, aren't you? I gotta say, you've proven yourself to be a good teammate.
I was the best teammate because you didn't shoot a fucking shot, you bastard. I did all of that, not you, me. Oh my what the fuck happened to him? Man, the story is fucking ass. I have to admit it because I try to really get involved with the characters in this game, but every single time I do, and every time I watch some cutscenes, it's too janky for me to get involved enough for me to care. Like, my character gets pulled out of a different universe and now pulled into a different plane of existence, and now my character is like, oh, whoop-de-doo, I guess I'm gonna be fighting some fucking weird shit. It's also not to mention every character that you look at do not move their eyes at all. They have to move their head. It's kind of like looking at a PNG image of a face, and it's not really dynamic at all. Every time they move their face around, their eyes never really look at you. They just look dead. And it's just so jarring a lot of the times whenever I'm trying to get involved with the story, because it's like, what the fuck is going on? What's happening? Deviants are on the loose and we need to kill them to get ourselves back home? I mean, sure, I guess, but like, what the fuck? And at least they give reason as to why the deviants are the main reasons why we can't like leave and go home. I don't think people are gonna play this game for the story at all, which is why I think whenever I see cutscenes like this, it makes me realize that people are gonna play for the gameplay rather than the story. So if I was to make a little rating system from a scale of, I would pay money for this to, oh, this should always be free, which by the way, the game is fucking free. It's free to play, so I ain't gonna complain too much about it. I would give this a solid $10. I would probably put this game at $10 to play for a long period of time, but since it is free to play, I'm actually really surprised of how much content is involved within the game, and also how much has been added to the game ever since release. And now since they're putting the game onto consoles, I'm pretty surprised that they have enough players to make this game continuously play. And not to mention, players can also make their own custom servers as well. So a lot of people can just hop on in, and even if the official servers die, you can always jump into someone else's server, which I appreciate wholeheartedly. Thank you, NetEase. It's a rare case that I see you actually do something like that, but I appreciate that because I know that especially in this day and age now where live service games could die on a whim and we can never play them again and then become lost media, it sucks. But since you added this feature, you get a nice little brownie point there. But yeah, official rating is I would pay $10 for this game. I wouldn't pay anything more than that because of the way it's designed, the gameplay, the jankiness. It feels like this game is still in early access, but it's polished enough to be like, yeah, this would be like a few months before full release, which isn't really a big deal. But to be honest with you, I'm just not going to see myself play this game as much in comparison to some other people. But I do think it's a fun game if you want something to progress in while you're waiting for another game to release, or if you're just trying to bide time by doing something else. I think this game is a good time waster in general, and it's not really that big of a deal in terms of its gameplay or its story, but graphically it's pretty impressive. Now, I want to talk about the sponsorship ordeal with content creators, and more in particular, the content creators that review games a lot. For me personally, I do a lot of reviews on my channel, and I do criticize games, and whenever I play them, I kind of have my moments of like, man, this really does suck, or man, this is really awesome. And for me personally, I have taken some different affiliation with different companies that I think deserve my affiliation with them because they either make a good product or their game is good enough for me to say, yeah, I wouldn't mind trying it out. For example, Veil VR. I got the game for free, tested it out, and I was like, you know what? I think this game is really fun, but there's a lot of drawbacks to it I think that need to be talked about. And guess what? They came onto my channel and discussed, hey, you're right. There's certain things about this, and let me evaluate and try to discuss with you why it is the way it is. I like those kind of developers that do that, allowing me to still have that freedom of speech to talk about and review games and criticize them, while still also allowing me to be myself and still promote their game. Because guess what? I'm not sponsored by them, but I got the game for free, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe people should try it out, give it a shot. And I don't think it's really a bad thing. But what I would say that's really bad is if reviewers get paid to make a video on the game to review it, and then don't really criticize the game or really have these really weird and stupid like clickbaity titles that really get annoying to the viewers and be like, why did they make this title in the first place? It has nothing to do with the content that they're trying to provide. So to be honest with you, for me, I just wanted to make a non-sponsored video of Once Human because I feel like there's not really that many videos that actually talk about a review of Once Human that's non-sponsored. So I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed the video and my criticism towards the game. There's a bunch of aspects to it that I can go into detail about, like certain things I do like or don't like, but if I wanted to do that, this video would be like an hour long. It'd be fucking ridiculous how long it would be. But that's why I try to shorten it down, condense it for you, and to give you a clear vision of what the game is. It is an open world MMO survival craft game that really focuses on dungeon fighting and is basically your traditional MMO, but with guns. That's basically what this game is. But it has all the basics and don't really amplify things all too much. Sure, there are certain things that are really cool and different, cosmetics that are very voluptuous, and the payment for them is pretty expensive, but for a free-to-play game, it's understandable. But I want to know your honest thoughts about Once Human. Did you like playing it? Did you not like playing it? Let me know in the comments down below. It'd be much appreciated. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I will check you guys all later. Also, let me know in the comments down below what you would like to see next for a video. But that's it. Deuces. Take care, everyone.